So one note that I wanted to tack on to the last video I made about Melly Germany and her comment and meaningfulness and comparing Amelia Earhart to the mother of Adolf Hitler in terms of their impact on the world. When it comes to meaningfulness, this idea I've been playing around with, and I'm not 100% certain of it yet, but just based on the definition of meaningful, what qualifies as being meaningful, in terms of, it's usually something serious, important, useful. I did say that quite often it means something for the greater good, but that might not necessarily be the case. So it's quite possible. Again, I'm still playing around with this notion. I'm not 100% sure yet. It's quite possible that evil people can have a meaningful life. So that it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a life for the greater good, but it should be useful. It should be for something bigger than yourself. So, for example, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi soldiers, you could make the argument. You might be able to make the argument that they actually had quite a meaningful life. It wasn't to a good end. It wasn't for good reasons. They did evil things, but it was meaningful. It had an impact. It changed the world in big ways, huge ways. Not everything necessarily has to be good in order to qualify as meaningful. You can have the opposite of that. You can have something that's meaningful but evil and bad and wrong. For example, in the Chris Nolan's Batman universe, where you had Bane saying that he was necessary evil. You could have evildoers, bad people, really bad people walking around out there intentionally dedicating their lives to doing bad things and causing harm, really working at it. And they have an idea of they're making themselves useful to an idea that's bigger than themselves. They're not just pursuing a selfish life. They are dedicating their lives, their actions, their goals, their energy to something greater than themselves, but it's for evil purposes. And they might even be of the idea that, it's necessary that both sides have to be represented in life, that you have to, you have the good side, but you also have to have the evil side. And so, yeah, I just wanted to make that point. That it's quite possible for those of you out there who are just living a life of sitting around on the couch, you're just working enough to pay your bills, and go out and eat and drink with your friends and jerk off on the couch and play video games. And you're not dedicating yourself to anything bigger than yourself. You're just living to survive and have fun. It's quite possible that that you're not making as much of your life as even some of the most evil people out there. So if the point of life, if the meaning of life is to live a meaningful life, then you could make the argument that true evildoers out there, like, the Dr. Evils of the world, who are making a career and a life goal out of being evil and doing horrible things and causing bad things to happen, making a bad impact on the world, you could possibly make the argument that they have a more meaningful life than most of the people out there who just choose to live for themselves. So, yeah. And that, so you might have maybe like three types of people out there. You have people who choose to dedicate their lives and themselves, their energy, their efforts, their focus to a higher calling, a purposeful calling that is supposed to be, is intended to be for the greater good, to spread good things and love and joy and happiness and peace and technological advancements that will further the species and the world as a whole. And then you'll have people out there who are doing the exact opposite of that. They are dedicating themselves. They're putting in just as much energy and effort and focus, but they're doing it to the goal of undoing all the good things of causing chaos and destruction and trauma and death and heartache. And then you're going to have the people in between who are they're just living a life for themselves. They're just doing it for themselves. They just want to be consumers. They just want to work a little bit, work as much as they need to make as much money, that they need to go out and have fun. And they're not really dedicating themselves, their lives, their energy, their efforts in any way to either side, to either, causing mayhem and destruction, or to bringing about peace and goodwill and helping people who need help, and so on and so forth. So yeah, again, I'm not necessarily firm on this idea. I'm still toying with it, but you could make the argument that meaningfulness is not just restricted to having a good impact on the world. It could possibly include having a negative, evil impact on the world. But still, it requires that you have a sense of your life having purpose and, working towards something that's greater than yourself, that's bigger than yourself, even if that thing is evil. So there are people out there that are, horrible, evil monsters that possibly have a more meaningful life and are living their lives more correctly even than a lot of you guys who are just, doing everything just for your own selfish purposes. So, yeah, I just wanted to make that point. But that might not be the case. It might be necessary to have it be, for the greater good rather than the greater evil. I don't know. Or Dr. Zorg. The Dr. Zorg would make that argument too, from Fifth Element. He causes destruction, and out of destruction comes order and discipline and so on and so forth. So yeah, I just wanted to tack that on there. Still something I'm playing around with. I will try to make another video, picking apart Melly Germany's comments sentence for sentence that includes all of this, and maybe something a bit more coherent with more examples than just Amelia Earhart versus the mother of Adolf Hitler in terms of who made the greater impact on the world and who lived a more meaningful life. Because, so again, if meaningfulness is not necessarily for the greater good, but just for, living, it's just a life that's filled with more purposefulness, for something greater than yourself. And if you believe that actually in doing evil, you're going to bring about eventually, something good, again, you could make the argument that Adolf Hitler and or his mother, his mother had a greater impact and lived a more meaningful life by virtue of the fact that she birthed a child, didn't raise the child properly, raised him to be a monster and a selfish, evil dictator who destroyed countless lives, and also passed on her DNA throughout the generations. And for those of you who are like, but Adolf Hitler didn't have any kids, well, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there disagreeing with that. So it's quite possible that her DNA is still walking around today, even though that's, not the official history. So like I said, Melly Germany, stop being stupid, please. Take your stupidity to someone else's YouTube channel. All right? Thank you. Goodbye.